I'm gonna show you guys how I do my heat-proof summer makeup that lasts me for hours. Whenever I do this base routine, my friends tell me that I literally look like I have a filter on my face. First thing I'm gonna do is spray my face with the NYX Bare With Me Prime Set and Refresh Spray to help bring some hydration back to my face. After I've sprayed it, I just like to press it into my skin with my beauty blender. Now I like to start priming certain areas. I do have some pores I'd like to fill in, so I love using this e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. It is the best. This is the e.l.f. Putty Primer applicator, and I just scooped some of that primer, and then I'm going to start applying it to my face like this. As you can see, I applied a thin layer, and the whole vibe of this video is going to be light, thin layers. And then I just use the other side of that brush to just press it in. Just use my fingers to further press the product into my skin. Next, I like using a gripping primer. This one is by e.l.f. It is their Power Grip Primer. This step is essential. A gripping primer will help your foundation stick to your skin, which means your makeup will last a lot longer. This is what the primer looks like. I just rub it between my fingers, and then I start blending from the center of my face, and then I work my way out. After I've spread it out, I then like to press it into my skin. I'm going to use MAC's Face and Body Foundation. This foundation doesn't really cover anything, but it does layer well. This foundation is best applied with your fingers. I hate applying foundation with my fingers. You'll feel the gripping primer because the foundation is harder to move on your face. So what I like to do is just press it into my skin. So press and kind of flick. I'll just add a little more wherever I feel that I need it. And again, I just use my brush. My beauty blender gets used in almost every single step of my makeup application. So now I'm just using my beauty blender to pick up any excess foundation. I like to cream contour after foundation. This is the Danessa Myricks Balm Contour. When it comes to bronzer or contour, I tap off the excess onto this metal palette. And whenever I need more product, I'll just tap right back onto the palette because it makes things easier and I don't pick up as much. I don't care about being messy when it comes to the contour just because I can clean it up with foundation. I know this looks a little crazy, but this is how I like to place my contour. Just use my beauty blender to blend that out. I really don't want to move the product around, so just pressing it and flicking it helps to blend it out but keep the product in place. Something I like doing before contouring and bronzing is actually spot concealing, but I forgot because whenever I'm distracted, I forget to spot conceal before doing that. This is the NARS Soft Matte Concealer. Sometimes I let it sit on my skin for a second. Sometimes I blend it out right away. For cream bronzer, I love the Say Beauty one. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the contour by pressing the excess off onto the palette. Key tip, I put the bronzer above where I put the contour. Also using my beauty blender to blend that out. This is literally my favorite bronzer. I'm just going to clean up underneath my contour with some foundation and just use my sponge to blend that out. I'm going to correct my under eyes with this LA Girl Yellow Corrector, focusing it into my hollows. I'm just feathering it out here. And then I just take some up here into my eye hollow that's right there, because if I don't cover that up, then it will be gray. And then my beauty blender to further blend that out. For some brightness, I like using the light yellow shade of the corrector. My makeup feels so incomplete without these correctors. I told you guys I use my sponge in like every step. On nights where I have plans, I love using the Rare Beauty Concealer. I'm going to let this sit for like a minute before I blend it out. Okay, to blend it out, I kind of just use a brush to press it in place, and then I'll just use my sponge to further blend it out. I feel if I just went in with the sponge right away, it would kind of just blend the product all over the place. Quick tip, if you feel like your concealer dried a little too much, you can just spray some MAC Fix Plus and it'll blend out a lot easier. This concealer is so good. The Kosas concealer is also another favorite of mine. And then I just use the bottom of my beauty blender to blend this area together because I don't like that harsh concealer line. After I apply concealer, I like applying a little bronzer just in this area right here. I don't know why, but I do this every time after I'm done blending out my concealer. Now for cream blush, I like using Say Beauty's Dreamy and Rosy. I apply it to the backs of my cheeks and I use a brush to blend it out. Again, pressing it in so it just stays in place and it's easier to move around than just going like that. I also like to put some on my forehead and a little on my chin. No harsh lines for me. To set my under eyes, I'm going to use this Huda Beauty powder in the shade Pound Cake and this powder puff from Amazon. I like getting rid of the excess by pressing the powder puff on the back of my hand, and it also really pushes the product into the puff. So I have to work really fast whenever I do this because I have creasy under eyes, so I just blend it out again, and then I just roll the powder puff up and press in. Then I just use the bottom of the puff to just make it look better because this has product on it, the bottom part doesn't. Very careful about where I place that powder because I just like to keep it up in this area right here. I also set my chin down the bridge of my nose and my forehead. I don't know why, I just feel like doing this helps. Charlotte Tilbury wands are the only liquid product that I think work well over powder. I just blend these out with my sponge. Why are these so good? Kosas powder to set every single part of my face except for those areas that I just highlighted. Press it in and don't swipe so you don't move any product around. This powder never looks cakey. I love this Revlon bronzer. Okay, so what I like to do is tap the excess off on the back of my hand because I saw Makeup by Mario doing that. I noticed him doing that with like all powder products, and again, I'm pressing it into my skin. And then this Kosas bronzer to put on top of the contour. This is my new favorite bronzer. If I feel it looks a little too heavy, I'll just take that same powder brush and just press over it. Just gonna clean that up. I also like to bake the sides of my nose just because my nose is very oily and it helps clean up the contour. Blush is Makeup by Mario's Creamy Peach. Can't forget the forehead and the chin. I like pressing in the bake with my sponge and then I'll wipe whatever's left with a brush. I just mix these shades from the Dior palette to highlight. And then I take the bronzy highlight shade and I just tap it on at the back of my cheeks. Honestly, I just do that because I like the way it looks. MAC Fix Plus to melt all of the powders into my skin and make it look like one layer. Normally I would press it in with my beauty blender, but my face is way too wet right now for that, so I'm going to let it dry a little before I do that. Okay, it's safe now. Just going to press that in. Now, while my skin's still a little damp, I'm gonna run my powder puff through this one size powder, tap off the excess on the back of my hand, and press it in these areas where I'm hella porous. Again, on the sides of my nose as well. I think this is the step that makes me look like I have a filter on. And then to make everything last, I spray the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Setting Spray. This is my favorite setting spray. And again, I wait for it to dry a little before I press it in with my beauty blender. I don't know what happened to the sound, but this is what the makeup looks like all done.